We get calls from people who just have no idea what's going on in their retirement plan, and they know they have to do something, they know they need a change, but they don't know what to do or where to go, and that's why they're calling us.
I think the main draw is the concern to run out of money, and I think they're looking for some type of answer. You're not taking double-digit losses, you don't need double-digit gains. Is an extra 5% really worth risking your whole retirement on? When you remove the emotions, it's an objective situation. It's not opinionated. Here's the money that you have. Here's what's at risk. Here's your liabilities. Here's the gap. What do we do?
Hey, welcome everybody to the Greenlight Retirement Show. I'm Brian Lindbergh, and I'm here with your hosts, Tim and Corinne Fitzwilliams and Ron Wright. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're doing great.
Kind of excited to be in person today.
Yeah, we got you here in the home office. And no more sunny Florida. We got, 29-degree weather back home for you that you got to skip out on?
I came the wrong direction.
Yeah.
We just flew in from Mexico, and it was cold, too.
It's cold everywhere.
I guess when you jump into cenote and you're expecting to be a nice, refreshing, amazing experience. And if you've done it before, you know what to expect. And it is an amazing experience. But when,
but not when it's cold.
When you jump in and you're expecting that and it's cold, that's rough. But it was fun for the kids. We enjoyed it. It was a great time. But it was colder than expected for sure.
Yeah, well, that's winter in the northern hemisphere, I suppose, for us, but a little colder than usual. So we're going to talk about a lot of things today, everybody, so we just need you guys to know that this is informational purposes only. Some of these situations and scenarios may sound like you, may feel like you, but you're going to need to give us a call at 757-961-0700 or visit us on the web at www.fitzwilliamsfinancial.com and set up a time for us to chat with you to get some real advice from you.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. But we're here to tell you some things and teach you some things that you probably don't know today. So we want to kick it off and talk a little bit about the economy. We have some news from the Fed. Tim, you want to get us started?
Yeah, I've been on our local news on Channel 13 every week. A little shameless plug here at
little ABC
440 ABC affiliate. Yeah, every Tuesday at 440 live. I'm on there giving a little bit of local finance forecasting, which is fun. And then again, that airs on Sunday at 7:45 in the morning. And one of the things we've been talking about is interest rates and what does it mean for the everyday consumer. And what I've been talking about, and Ron, love to hear more on you about this, but we're trying to get back to a less restrictive model.
Right.
We've been in a very restrictive model. I mean, cash is hard to get.
Right.
Loans are hard to get.
Right. We had to
Rates
conquer
are
that
high.
inflation monster that was out there.
It was there.
And the way to do it was to restrict economic growth. And so that's what they did. But now it's time to get back to normal.
So if we're getting back to normal, what does that mean for the consumer and the everyday person? And what does it mean for the investors, right? What should they be looking at, right? Because we're kind of like coming out of the recession, trying to get into, we didn't hit a recession, but we kind of put our toe in type of thing, and we're coming out trying to get into growth, right?
Out of restricted territory.
And out of the restriction area. Right. So what does that look like to you as far as, what this growth model would be, maybe some good sectors that we could look at, things like that?
Yeah, normally when we come out of a recession or even a contractionary, we just call it a slowdown.
Yeah, slowdown. Yeah.
You're going to look at high growth areas because those are going to be the ones that are going to take off first. And almost universally, it's understood that technology is going to be that number one area. And that's really what's pushing us right now, too, especially in the area of artificial intelligence and AI and all these developments that are going on. So we're building all these data centers, and that's what helps to propel that first move forward. What they call capital expenditures. They're spending all this money to build out all this infrastructure.
Let's talk about that AI for a bit, because right now there's a little bit of uptick in unemployment, right?
Yeah.
But no loss in production.
Right. So it's interesting. Every time in history where we have a situation where we have a major shift in technology, like we're having now,
like a cell phone or something,
the internet, personal computers. Remember the days when you had Charlie Chaplin selling IBM PC computers on television? Maybe I'm older than everybody here. That was a reality. So every time you have those moves, there's a change in the workforce. right? Because all of a sudden you have a huge step forward in terms of productivity from the new technology, but you got then suddenly a bunch of people that may not have a job anymore because their job got changed. You know, the most famous one is nobody wants a buggy whip anymore because we have cars. You only have to. So all those buggy whip manufacturers went out of business.
Well, I definitely think the productivity is increased by AI. I'm seeing it everywhere you turn.
Yes.
It's about the only positive thing you can find on social media nowadays, but you see people constantly using AI in everyday life. Corinne, what are you seeing with that? I know you've become friends with your AI guy. I think you called him Alex, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Alex.
So on the level of a individual human person using AI, I think it can be beneficial, but you have to be very cautious because it's only as smart as you teach it to be. It's not guaranteed to find the right answers and give you the information that you need.
Not ready to
100%.
be your attorney or your doctor yet.
It's not a fiduciary.
But I mean, you've got corporations out overseas that are shutting down full factories and using 100% robot people, like robots, not machines, but actual robots to build cars and stuff, and it's creating a lack of issues on the line because robots don't make as many mistakes. Yep. You can train them easier if a part needs to be changed or if something's switched. It's
no sick days.
Quick little
no vacation time. No sick days. No complaints.
So
right?
it's going to make an effect for their economy, and eventually when we start doing that here, I mean, we got so upset about immigrants coming in and working in our fields. You know, it's going to be even more upsetting when it's robots coming in and working in our offices.
And that's that displacement, right, that we get from this new technology. And so when you have a recovery like this, we call it a jobless recovery because the employment rate actually drops, the unemployment rate increases, but productivity stays solid because of the new technology. And all those folks that had jobs taken away, they have to rotate and find a new position somewhere else, and that takes time. So that's a dislocation, but it does happen.
The robots develop a robot union. They self-manage themselves.
There is
those are some
there
real...
is right now I can't remember the name of it, but there is an online forum that is only AI agents right now.
That's something like that.
Talking,
I saw
which
that.
is kind of comical in a way. Because the AI agents are actually like programmed by people, whoever wants to have the AI agent. So there's it's not really autonomous.
It's not like intelligence.
It's
right?
a fun little
confused.
game.
Yeah.
Now, Ron, that sounds scary from the employee perspective, right? So how long does this rotation and this retraining typically take historically? Because it seems like we've made the turn. I mean, right? Industrial Revolution happened. We figured out how to, create different jobs. And we're in a similar situation now where it seems like different jobs need to be created. Historically speaking, I guess, what's that lead time or lag time look like for this rotation for the employee to make?
There's no real set metric on that, other than to say we've seen the cycle speeding up. So it used to be there was a longer gap between these stages, these phases, and we've seen that speeding up, and that just makes sense. As technology advances, then new technology will advance even faster. So probably my guess would be, without looking at the hard numbers, that that recovery time, that turnaround time for the jobs is also getting shorter because people are able to integrate into a new position more easily.
And do you think that's probably partly why some of the consumer confidence metrics, all the other economic indicators seem to be okay, maybe a couple of yellow lights, if you will, but the consumer confidence was kind of dismal lately, but it was kind of shrugged off by the markets, if you will. Yeah,
right. There was a recent article, I believe, in the Financial Times that was talking about how all of the global economic indicators have lost their ability to be relied upon because by and large, a lot of them were saying it's going to be bad. We were all expecting recessions over the last 2 years that never happened. And what you've got is an interesting dichotomy here between what people are saying in those confidence surveys and what they're doing and going out and spending money. And they're definitely going out and spending money. And
I mean, that's a good point before you jump into that for everybody to understand. These are surveys. People get a phone call and they're asked a dozen questions, and that's how they put together these consumer confidence metrics. So it could have just been a sample set issue where maybe they just called some people who were a little more depressed and looking a little bit more dismal at the way things are, or maybe the economy really is that way. But the economy on balance looked to be all right by all other indicators.
Mm-hmm.
But when we looked at things last year, the year before, we were talking about the recession, we were talking about it, it kind of played out how we were talking, which is we were going that direction, depending on certain things, and we're going to kind of slide right past it. But we were prepared either way.
Exactly.
You had a plan for either direction. It just happened to be kind of a touch and go type thing where we really didn't get into it, but we were looking at it. Right. Almost like at the edge of the river or the lake, if you will. Right?
Yeah, particularly with the tariffs and
it
all
got
that,
really
that was
close,
coming into
but
the picture.
It didn't happen. And we saw the opposite. We saw corporations be able to absorb the profits.
Exactly.
Absorb the costs through
tariffs,
their profits. To absorb the tariffs through their profits that they had.
Right.
Partially, I believe, because they raised prices, never took it back down from the pandemic, from the supply chain, so they have plenty of fat profits there.
Yeah.
If you want to go look at some cars right now, there's definitely cars that still have over sticker price.
Oh, yeah.
But I think all that's going to start to change here as we get back to that original topic of loosening of the economy, because people want to get competitive.
Right.
And I think that's going to be exciting. I love to see
Absolutely.
a competitive market where you see sales and you see good deals, and that's what it's all about.
Businesses are definitely going to win in this next leg, but also the consumer. As interest rates fall, your home mortgages that maybe you've gotten in the last 5 or 6 years are going to be able to be refinanced at decent rates.
Yeah.
Auto loans are going to be able to go down to be a little bit more affordable. The cost of capital. The administration's also trying to put a cap on interest rates for credit cards. Most business folks say good luck with
Ron
that.
Ron and I don't understand that
But
one.
nonetheless, there's some distinct advantages coming from a lower cost of capital. Let's hold on to that thought real quick, because we're going to pay some bills, take a quick break, and if you want to hear some more things, stick with us in the Greenlight Retirement Show. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Greenlight Retirement Show. And per usual, we kept going during the break, so we're going to catch you back up to speed. Tim wanted to really chat about this cap on credit card interest rates. So Tim, kick us off.
Well, there's this thought out there that we're going to cap the interest rate charged on credit cards. And it sounds really good, right?
Sounds fantastic.
Because nobody wants to be charged outlandish rates.
25, 30%.
But the problem is that the methodology on how people are charged is tied to the risk that they bring to the table. So if you have and we use the index for that of the credit system, right? Your credit score. And so if you have a lower credit score, traditionally speaking, the idea is that you're going to pay more for money. Or use of money, if you will, which would be higher rates. So if you cap the rate out, the people that have high risk, the company is not going to be able to give them credit because it's too high risk.
Right,
So
exactly.
only
Get
people
denied,
that have really good credit scores and that are really educated on how to manage their credit are going to be the ones that benefit from a cap rate, because they're just going to use it to get the points and then pay right off.
And guess what their credit utilization rates are?
Low.
They're very low because they don't keep a balance on those
they don't
credit
keep the
cards
balance,
anyway.
right.
They pay them off.
They use the cards all the time, but they don't keep a balance. That's a really good point. Because that could be also, because you're talking about statistics and we're talking about consumer confidence, and I'm always from the econ point, like standardize the data. Who was asked that question? What group of people? Was it people at the bar down the street? Was it people at the courthouse? Was it people at their jobs? Was it people at the bus stop?
Right.
Who was
On a
asked?
golf course,
right, on the
whatever.
golf course, right? What walk of life, what person was asked what? I think that's really, really important, because you don't want people thinking, hey, this is a good thing. We're trying to have less price gouging, if you will, because that's what it comes down to.
Right.
But it really comes down
affordability,
to,
right? It's all this affordability talk.
But you really need to be educated, and you really need to have a good financial plan, so you're not using these tools.
Right.
Or rather, not using the tools. You should use the tool, but the right way, right?
Not to pay
Use
the
it-
interest.
Not to pay the interest, right? They're amazing to get miles, to get free money, to do all sorts of cool tactics. Put your business bills on them.
That's right.
And flow and pass through on a regular basis. And again, to that standardization point, it could look skewed if they're like, well, that's not true, Tim. Business owners use credit cards all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Probably more than the consumer. But they don't hold a balance all the time.
How much interest do they actually
And if
pay?
they do, it's going to be very small.
Right.
So I just think that that's something that a lot of people are confused on right now when they look at things.
There's a lot of those that are getting floated out there right now, because unfortunately they're motivated politically in order to gain people's confidence and attention and trust. But they're not really solving any problem. So, things like we just had some changes with the One Big Beautiful Bill. So some nice new tax changes that are going to be out there for a little bit at least, I think through 2008. Things like the first $25,000 of tip income is deductible, which is fantastic. I have a son-in-law who said, "Are you sure about my tax return? Because this doesn't look right." Because he all of a sudden got $24,000 worth of tips that he didn't have to pay tax on.
That's right.
Fantastic, but it's going to help him, but it's not really a broad economic help.
Yeah, it's like isolated.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's very
isolated
targeted.
to very niche
Yeah, exactly.
scenarios.
So, there's a lot of talk about these things, and they sound really good, but as you were saying, you have to think through the whole picture to see how it's going to play out.
One of the things that I don't think people think about when this comes up, because 10% interest cap on credit cards sounds really great, but Corinne and I were talking during the break, and that creates a certain different risk appetite for consumers as well too. If they don't have the extreme interest payments racking up against them, they may do, less than wise things with their money. We see corporate examples of this as well too, because coming out of the great financial crisis all the way up into COVID, we had corporations getting drunk on free money because they paid very little interest for their notes, and they did very risky investments. Some of it paid off, some of it didn't. But when you increase that appetite to take on risk from lower interest rates and lower debt service costs, you're just going to get this frothiness of risk that's overall in the market, which could spill over into your retirement accounts, when the wrong side of this pops up at the end of this. When people can't pay their bills.
That's a really great point, because these interest rates aren't just to keep the corporations or the issuers from losing because they're lending to a highly risky person. They're also a boundary to keep people from making
Bad
decisions that are
decisions.
really too risky and over-consuming. And overproduction and overconsumption are two areas that get an economy in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, because what do you buy with with your 10% American Express card? Do you go to Best Buy and load up on technology gear? Do you go down the street and open up a food truck and launch a business? Do you try to make money with your debt? Most consumers typically consume their debt, and they put it on, a vacation, which
Christmas.
Christmas.
Electronics and
Dining
things like
out.
that. Dining out.
Could be all kinds of things.
Lots of different ways. Not everybody's going to make the entrepreneurial decision and try to start something that's going to boost the economy.
And to be honest, there's a large population of younger people
Sure.
that it doesn't matter if you gave them 0% interest, they don't know how to manage their money. So
right.
they're even if you gave them 10% rates on their credit cards, they're still gonna rack up the debt. They're still gonna have issues paying it off. They're still gonna struggle because some people just haven't been taught how to be
it's not
responsible
taught.
with
Yeah,
funds.
it's not taught, and a lot of times the parents are in that same situation. But there's really not a lot, especially in high school. I know we're going through that now with our son. There's not a lot of business courses or personal finance courses. There's really, I think he has one accounting. I'm very curious if in his accounting class they get into looking at budgets and analysis of a P&L and expenses and how things balance out. I wonder how far they take it. But there really isn't much. And so that's very lacking. And if you go on social media as a young person to go try to find that stuff, you don't find that.
Yeah.
What you find is someone telling you how you can spend, $20 a month to get my program to see how I rented this mansion to look like I'm rich, or
God, who is that?
how
I
can
want
I
that
sell
guy's
you
name.
something, Yeah.
Yeah, my big
It's-
worry is that there's going to be all these people that are working and that have debt and they complain that they can't afford a home and they see their parents living in their home dealing with retirement and they say, "Oh, mom's getting old. I'm going to move in with mom."
Nope.
And then, they we had a sandwich generation for a long time for different reasons.
Yeah.
But my big fear is that we're going to have a lot of our clients
unwrap sandwich. We're doing the unwrap. No.
We're going to have a lot of our clients out there that are like, yeah, my kid's coming back. My grandkids are moving in,
I mean, it's a pretty popular thing in the conference room to have multi-generational living right now. I mean, I think the average age of the new home buyer is around age 40. And the average, national new home price is around $400K. And you need to have something like $120,000 to $150,000 a year of income with no other debt to be able to afford said house. So it's been incredibly challenging.
That's the new average of the home.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I looked at that stat, so
It's
I'm
right
sure
in there,
I'm
yeah.
sure somebody out there is going to say, "Well, it's actually 406, Brian." But give me the grace of 5 or 10% on either direction there. But we're we're in the neighborhood for sure, and so I would encourage those that this podcast is catching your ears. As interest rates come down, home price affordability is going to come back.
Right.
That interest expense is going to get more manageable. The average car payment should sunset a little bit. I think the average car payment's nearing $1,000 a month right now.
Yeah, I read something about that
which
too,
is
yeah.
just insane for thinking about how some people used to be able to buy a house for $1,000 a month, and now you're getting a Ford F-150 for $1,000 a month.
Right.
And no disrespect to F-150s, I like them too, but it's just the way that inflation has hit, the way that the cost of capital has moved, and it's been challenging. But here we are. We have an opportunity to retrain, as we talked about in the first segment, to get a better job, to be able to get a better income. Minimum wage is rising out there, so I know Tim's going to want to talk about minimum wage going up a little bit too. We'll keep that in the next segment. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of jobs that aren't taken by AI yet. So this is just an opportunity for young people and people earlier in their careers to take a promotion, get a second job, and get ready for the next wave of price affordability when it comes to houses and autos and things like that. So Tim, you were online the other day, and
Yeah.
you were telling me you kind of got into it with some other financial folks on TikTok.
Yeah,
right?
because as I was scrolling, all I kept seeing was, life insurance is a scam, or index universal life insurance is a scam. All these negative things about financial products. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, that's a very twisted way to say something. You can't, as a fiduciary, and even a non-fiduciary, you shouldn't be saying at all that any financial tool that is approved in the United States of America that we have access to is a scam. But what you can say is I wasn't educated and someone sold me or someone didn't put my best interest ahead.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But it's not, these tools are not bad. Annuities are not the devil. They're not bad. Life insurance is not bad. It can be a blessing. It can be amazing. It can eliminate capital gains in some cases. It can do some really cool stuff. But if it's not done right, then people can perceive it as that. But you have professionals out there saying it is just so that they can, maybe buy term, sell the difference, or
let's say it this
buy
way.
term, invest the difference.
Position their agenda.
Yeah, position.
Right.
Yeah, position their agenda. Right, whatever that agenda may be. There's lots of schools of thoughts on that. But
as
that's
a
the
consumer,
idea,
so
yeah.
how if I'm playing the role of the consumer here, how do I know if somebody's positioning their agenda to me, or if this is really something
That's a great
viable for my
question.
strategy?
And I don't want to beat up the non-fiduciary licensed people because some of them are good folks. I think you have to ask yourself, are they educating you? Fiduciary or not, are you being educated? Do you feel like you're learning something from the person you're talking to? Are they showing you, I think this is it, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the solution that they're trying to sell you?
Tim, real quick, I think it might be really important for you to very clearly define fiduciary.
Sure. It means that you have a legal obligation to put your client's interest ahead of your own.
Yeah, that's really important.
Absolutely.
It's good to understand.
And it is. And a lot of the folks out there online are not, and some are. But again, they're just kind of saying these things like they're bad, and it's really the architect. But if you're not a fiduciary, doesn't mean you're a bad person. You can still sell a product. You can still sell
You can
something.
do it honestly. Even.
Now-
And you can do it right.
I'm going to jump in here real quick and say, you mentioned, are they educating you?
I think that's the key.
I think that you're right in the fact that people are selling products without explaining the
good,
details
the bad, and the ugly.
about it.
Yeah.
However, In the life insurance and annuity world, you can sit down in 10 meetings with someone and explain it to them, and they can understand it. And then the sale happens, and then a year later, they're not going to remember it all. This isn't their job. It's not their job to remember it all.
That's a good point.
So when you sit down with someone and they're educating you, I think it's also important to take notes on what it is that you think you're getting, and ask the advisor, am I right in this when you talk about accelerated death benefits?
That's our third.
Really
am I
good.
right?
Our third
in,
meeting, the Q&A.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I think that's an important part to the process of onboarding the client.
I also heard something a little different in there, especially if you're looking at one of these things from somebody who's not currently a fiduciary, is what's the prescribed follow-up plan here? Because I can tell you, from somebody who's managed a lot of these plans and positioned a lot of these plans over time, it is, Corinne's absolutely right. You're going to forget, but it goes back to the fiduciary side that we live in, is the duty of care and the duty of loyalty to the client, to be able to manage this thing moving forward. So if you don't have a prescribed management plan here, it's like, hey, we're going to meet, we're going to talk about this so we can evaluate how life changes. I'd say from my experience, that's where a lot of these things go wrong, is they haven't planned any contingencies for as life changes. I remember vividly learning and training from Tim, would go through green, yellow, and red light scenarios when stuff like this happened.
Right.
Is this a yellow light situation or is this a red light situation?
But
Do
we
need to
talked to them about it.
Yeah, and that's what we have been doing. And so I guess that's what I'm helping, ride Corinne's coattails here and saying, hey, if you don't have a follow-up plan to meet regularly, insurance unfortunately happens to be one of those things that's rather transactional. And these types of strategies, in my opinion, and I can say professional opinion because I got the microphone right now, but they really need to be managed and followed up with. So what's happening on that regular basis? What's going on in the review? Is the advisor staying up to speed with job loss, job change, death of a spouse, birth of a child, grandchild, and so on and so forth? A lot of these things factor into the month-by-month budget where
but it's not all doom and gloom.
It isn't. No.
So
No.
it sounds like that's one of the ways you can tell if who you're talking to or working with is a fiduciary or is not a fiduciary.
Or at least acting in a fiduciary manner.
Capacity,
Yeah.
or in a manner, yeah.
Yeah, so how can people know that? How do you know?
I know that's the question, isn't it?
I would say
think
if
it's the good, the
that
bad,
didn't
and the
sound
ugly.
like your experience, then
Well, if I'm calling up somebody to buy some life insurance or,
Yeah.
or talk
Sure.
to somebody, how do I know if they're a fiduciary or not?
You'd have to ask.
Okay.
You'd have to
So
ask.
so people should that should be one of their first questions?
yeah.
I think it should be one of their first questions. It doesn't mean that the person is doing anything wrong if they're not, but at least your guard can come down if you know that they're fiduciary.
I also think that if you're out there and you're looking for specifically life insurance and annuity products, they're not like purchasing a car where once you finish with that salesman, you shake their hand and you don't ever have to see him again.
That's a good point.
I don't care if my car salesman guy has been working there for 2 months or 2 years or 10 years. That doesn't matter to me because he didn't build my car. With life insurance and annuities and even asset under management, the team is actually building this vehicle for you. So it's important to ensure that they're a good mechanic, that they are trained in it, that this isn't their
That's a good
first
point.
year in the business
Yeah.
or
It's
their
also-
second car build.
Yeah.
Because this vehicle has to last you till the end of your life.
Yeah, this is a life contract, right? So this isn't
Yeah.
like in 5 years I'm going to get a new
Yeah.
car.
That's right.
I'm going
Right.
to keep this one for 10 years and get a new vehicle. Arguably this is going to be the one and the only time that you do this. So that's a really great point. One of the things that I think that we need to chat about here is the way people get positioned to life insurance. Ron, you made a comment that, hey, if I'm looking for it, in these types of solutions, because I'm privy to the discussions that Tim had online, because we were chatting about it, these aren't scenarios where somebody sought out somebody to go, oh, hey, I had a new kid, I'm going to go buy some more life insurance. This is a
Right.
situation
No.
where you ran into somebody who said, hey, instead of putting 30 grand a year into my 401k, I think you should put 15 grand a year into some life insurance. It's a different type of way that you're being marketed to for some of these life insurance transactions as well, too. Life insurance being positioned as a retirement asset almost.
Yeah, it's just also very situational. I mean, On the same coin of like an annuity, right? Like here's a good example of where you just have to say what the options are. But if someone comes out of their job, they're making $350,000 a year, they got their last paycheck, they saved up $2 million bucks, they're a little nervous how they're going to pay the bills. Maybe an income annuity could fit. Maybe a good income market-based plan could fit. Maybe it's them doing bonds on their own. Who knows? But it's giving them those options. But if they say, look, I don't want any risk, man, I just want to make my bills are paid, well, then the annuity is a great fit to provide that income for life, if that's what they're saying. But it's a bad fit if I say, you need this, and it's the only way that you're going to get income, because now I'm not telling the truth, because there are other solutions available.
For sure.
Right.
Also, another thing that I really think is important is if you're sitting down with somebody as a retiree or someone getting near retirement and you don't already have a financial planner, you should be meeting with somebody who's well-rounded. If you're just meeting with somebody that does life insurance sales or that only pushes one annuity product, you're not going to get the best fit for yourself, because a lot of times it's not a one shoe fits all. A lot of times when you're planning for your retirement, you need Ron, you need Brian, you need Tim, you need a tax guy, you need an estate plan. It's not just going to be all of your eggs in one life insurance bucket. So I think that's another important thing. You call somebody and you say, are you a fiduciary? And they say, yes. That's not the end of it. You also need to find out, what products do you sell? How is it that you meet with your clients? What are you offering? Right?
That's right. There's a whole lot to it. And if that doesn't sound like your experience with your financial person, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you would like to have an experience that's a little bit more well-rounded, at least a second opinion, give us a call at 757-961-0700. Visit us on the web at www.fitzwilliamsfinancial.com. That's www.fitzwilliamsfinancial.com. Missed the W there. All right, and welcome back to the Greenlight Retirement Show. We got a little bit more time for you today. We took you down a little bit of a walk of the sort of insurance-only advisor that you might meet in retirement planning. We're going to take the remaining time. We're going to walk you down the block of the stock-only or investment-only shop as well, too. Obviously, our bias on the table, we're kind of in the middle. We believe you need to have a little bit of everything, but we understand what you guys are experiencing out there, and you might only have a stockbroker.
Right, you're scrolling through Facebook, you're scrolling through TikTok, whatever your choice is, YouTube Reels, whatever, right? And all of a sudden you see somebody who's saying, hey, I make this much money a year and here's my portfolio strategy.
Right.
Do you want to buy this strategy or follow my trades? How do you feel about that, Ron, as being the mecca, if you will, of financial acumen from a designation standpoint, or whatever you want to call it, the top of the top, from the financial standpoint as a chartered financial analyst? Folks, that's the top of the top in our industry. So how do you see something like that? And what are your thoughts when you hear about something like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. We were talking about it during the break. There's a lot of questions about the legality of some of these things.
Yeah.
If I got somebody that just pops up on a TikTok feed and says, hey, this is my portfolio and you should follow me because I've had such and such profits, and
that's exactly what it is.
Therefore, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
How do you know that they know what they're doing?
Right.
If there's nobody regulating them, how do you know that what they're saying is true? And this is the problem with that. That's why we live and work in a highly regulated industry for a reason, because scams are easy for people who are uneducated and are doing these things based on emotion.
Yeah.
I hear somebody at my table at a party that they made a killing in such and such, and I want to get in on that.
Yeah, right. Everybody wants to win, yeah.
Yeah. And so I want to know what they're doing, and maybe I can do that too. And we saw for a long time, I haven't seen so many recently, but for a long time, there were all kinds of these seminars on options trading.
Right.
I'm sure they still exist.
Yeah.
But they get burned out because over time, people start to realize, I can't replicate what they're saying, or they find out what they were saying was hypothetical. In other words, they said, I built this system, and then I pretended it ran for this 10-year period. but
Anybody
really
can open
didn't.
a free paper trading account too, where you
Yeah,
can just play.
yeah,
Yeah.
And that's
What are
actually
you
not.
thinking there?
Do you remember? So I love the movie, but do you remember the movie Boiler
The
Room?
boiler room.
Oh
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
That's a
so I love
great
the movie.
point.
There's a lot of
Wow.
interesting stuff in it, but what were they actually selling? There were advisors out there that were
That's true.
that were 100% believing in what they were doing, but they weren't selling a good product. Mm-hmm. They were
There's no
excited.
business behind the name. It was all hype.
It was
Right.
yeah, and it's like that's why it's like I value what Ron does because he's forgotten more about the stock market than I'll ever know in my whole lifetime. Like he's such a big expert on this, and he's not just somebody who's pushing something because a company sent him a pamphlet and said
Oh, and
this
he
is
gets
what
lots of
you should
pamphlets,
do.
by the way.
I kind of hate that, actually.
That's another point. We are inundated with lots of crazy
Proxy
stuff. Hey, go
voting,
take this trip to
prospectuses.
Italy with me to go have a conference
Right,
about
right.
such and such. I mean, folks, the people that are really doing it are, I don't want to say the word bribe, but have a lot of invitations and pamphlets and nice dinners and all these things that you have to be like, you know what, I got to put my clients first. I mean, you get
Right.
pamphlets all the time, right?
Yeah, pamphlets, emails, phone calls. I
Invitation to conferences.
Conferences, yeah.
constantly, and I intentionally put up a wall between that myself and that because
Right.
I don't want to be influenced by that.
Right.
Because if I'm influenced by that, then I'm working in their best interest, not in our client's best
But if
interest.
there's a topic out there that we think makes sense, and we might go to a conference because we want to understand that a little bit more, right? Or if you have an award or something, that makes sense as well. But, just to like willy-nilly change your portfolio around in your suite of product solutions, all because of people offering you things, that's not right.
And that's also why we put together committees and think tanks on this stuff. So it's
Yeah.
not just one individual's thought or one individual experience. In fact, Ron said he puts up a wall. I generally function as the wall. I take some of these meetings from wholesalers for him,
Yes.
and I say, "Hey,
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that.
here was
Your
the good
sacrifice.
idea. You're welcome."
And on TikTok,
I'm still waiting for the Yeti cups and the swag to come from that, but I'll just say that I'll give Ron kind of my analysis. Say, hey, this was interesting to me, and I typically never hear anything more about it. I'm sure he thinks about it. I think one time I did introduce you to somebody who gave us something in our current income portfolio.
Yes.
That we took advantage of. But out of the dozens
Right
of
place, right
meetings,
time, right
there's
fit.
one thing that we've taken from it.
but even then, it didn't come from TikTok.
It did not come from TikTok. No.
So if you're a retiree and you're out there watching TikTok and you see somebody saying, follow what I'm doing on the stock market, and you're already managing your own portfolio, I wouldn't trust, I've bought makeup off TikTok that ends up not being what they say it is. I definitely wouldn't
I think
trust
it's
my
the-
retirement
Let
portfolio.
me walk
Yeah,
the listener
that's a
through
good
this
point.
real quick. Most of our clients and prospective clients align with this because we're typically retirement aged planners. So you're talking 50 to 90-year-old type clients. And so if we doubled your money with some great stock tips or things like that, do we meaningfully change the vacations and the lifestyle that you live? Most of our clients, thinking your answer for yourself real quick, spoiler alert, most of our clients say no. If I doubled my money, I wouldn't really change my lifestyle.
My day-to-day, yeah, that's
My
true.
day-to-day. Now, what happens if your assets got cut in half?
Yep.
Do we change the vacation that you go on? Do we change what you eat for dinner? And when you frame this around the typical client that our firm has, 50 to 90 years old, typically at their peak income earning years, recently retired, and you put these factors on it, you come back to Corinne's conclusion. Do you really need to take, I'm going to steal your thunder here, Tim, do you really need to take all sorts of risk for an extra 5%?
I love that. Yes, absolutely.
That's something Tim said on WNIS years and years and years ago. If you're a longtime listener of our old Don't Lose the Money show, you'll remember that one vividly. But if you don't need double-digit returns, don't put yourself in a position to take double-digit losses. And this is where the balanced approach comes in, where you could have a reasonable plan that might encompass some insurance as an asset class. It could insurance a tax strategy to help you extract more value from your IRAs, giving the IRS less money. It could be a market-based account that is maybe even conservatively or aggressively managed to achieve your goals there. But there isn't really a one-size-fits-all approach that is for anybody. So I say that to come back to where we've been in this show with you today is you probably shouldn't be with somebody who can only do one trick.
Yeah, because it creates a sales effect, unfortunately. And 9 times out of 10, it definitely gravitates towards that. And I think going back to that TikTok, that Facebook reel, or YouTube reel, whatever you're watching, I think, Ron, you said it best. If you really want to just eliminate the noise, ask them if they're a fiduciary and have them prove it. And it's very simple. You can ask to see their ADV. It's all online. It's all published. Broker check. And then you're going to know. Because it's not to say that there's not fiduciaries on TikTok. I have seen that.
No, there's some great people. We talk
we're
to them
on
too.
there. So, I mean,
Right.
it's out there. So navigate your questions. Because now in that world, there's so much noise.
Right.
You got to know how to look. You don't want to see financial professional. You don't care about how many years they're in the business. You don't care about those things. You need to know, are they obligated by law to act in your best interest?
And that's right. You absolutely don't know what you don't know, and that's why you need a team to work in your best interest there. We're here for your phone calls and your web inquiries here at 757-961-0700 and www.fitzwilliamsfinancial.com. We look forward to chatting with you all in person, hopefully, and maybe at one of our next events that we have coming up. You can check out our event schedule here on our website as well, too. But until then, God bless. Take care. Have a great day. Drive safe if you're in the car, and we'll look forward to talking to you later.